What is going on, guys? Welcome back to the channel and welcome back to the vlog. It's been a while since I started a video, especially started a video at my parents' house. So yep, GTR is parked up. It's been sat a few days, so it's got a little bit of a tree grime on it since I cleaned it last week. But the GTR is in exceptionally good condition. Everything's working fine on it. Very happy with it. Nothing exciting to report there. But the reason we're back today is because it is Beaulieu Supercar weekend. 2004 Bentley Continental GTs count as supercars for some reason, so we are taking the Bentley. So of course, here is my Continental GT in all her glory. 2004. It definitely was cleaned a couple of days ago, but the weather's been atrocious. There's a few watermarks on it, but other than that, I'm overall pretty happy with it to display. Could do with another clean really, but that's not going to happen today, especially as we're parking in the middle of a field. Anyway, yeah, W12, 6-litre twin turbo, 550 brake. Not quite the GTR's 680 brake, certainly not quite as fast, but an arguably more exotic powertrain, which is why I guess it counts as a supercar. So we are taking the Bentley. So I did actually go yesterday with Shah, of course, but the weather was dismal, didn't want to record. I thought it'd be a bit pointless. Weather's much better today, and my mum's with us today. So yeah, it's going to be much better today weather-wise. Hopefully we can get a better look at the cars.
And I brought champagne.
And she's going to sit behind the Bentley and drink champagne, because that's what she wants to do.
I might look at a Koenigsegg.
There is a Koenigsegg there. Just the one, but a nice one. Well, we have arrived. As you can see, Bentley sat on the field, looking pretty damn pretty. And 3 GTRs next to me. Red one's running 800 brake. This one's same stage as me, 4.25. Both CBA models, but the red one has quite a lot of aftermarket parts like lights. And my favourite of the 3, which I believe is for sale and very tempting, a 2018 Nismo. Absolutely stunning. I think it's got the fender vents. I'm not sure if this is the real fender vent one, because if it is, that means this is one of the 25 that were imported to the country as the 2022 plus Nismos, whatever, 21 plus. So if it is, absolutely incredible car. I would love this, especially in pearl white. That's kind of like the dream GTR for me. Would love to swap them out, but 150 grand is pretty damn steep. But money no object. This is the GTR I'd be driving. I know that the Nismo has the GT3 turbos, so you get a little bit less turbo lag. It's got a lot of carbon fibre body parts, revised suspension, bigger brakes, all that sort of stuff. I think they're carbon ceramics. Just an insane, proper supercar track weapon. Interestingly, there seems to be a fair few less cars today than yesterday, despite the weather being absolutely glorious today, in contrast with yesterday. However, I feel like the calibre of car is slightly better. There's less like normal stuff like Maserati Ghiblis, no offence, but there's less normal stuff, less like Continental GTs from 04. Who would bring that to a supercar event, you know? But more special stuff. I mean, first thing I've noted is there's a lot more Lambos at the Lambo ownership tent, which we're going to have a look at in a second. But this thing here, I'm pretty sure wasn't here yesterday, unless I missed it, which I doubt. But Aston Martin Zagato. The nice thing about displaying a car at Beaulieu Supercar weekend, and if you've got something that's eligible, I'd highly recommend displaying. Not only do people get to enjoy your car and see a load of other different cars in contrast, like Bentleys and GTRs next to each other, but you get the opportunity to enter between 7:30 and 9:30 this year. Obviously times may change for future years, but it does mean you've got access about an hour or two before the public get here, which means you have basically, bar the staff, private view of lawns like this, which is just absolutely insane and well worth it before it gets too busy. So on this lawn, I'm not going to be able to name everything, unfortunately, because I'm not a proper Ferrari connoisseur, but this lawn is entirely Ferraris. So the Ferrari marked lawn, very cool. No idea what this race car is, but if someone could enlighten me as to how many millions this is probably worth, that would be great. Any idea? Let me know in the comments below. But some cars here I do know. Now, this here is actually, I think, an 812 Superfast, which is in a lovely spec, nice Grigio grey paint colour. Very nice indeed. The more rare stuff is at the back of the lawn here. There's definitely more Ferraris here than there were last year. But we have a Ferrari F50 under the tent there. Obviously that is the predecessor to the LaFerrari, their sort of hypercar. Next to that, the predecessor to the F50, the Ferrari F40. The last car that I believe Enzo Ferrari personally allowed to leave the mark in with his approval. Twin turbo V8, probably one of the first turbo Ferraris, I believe, if not the first. and it's just an absolute classic hypercar. Then in contrast with that, we've got some other classics as well. Again, here's another one, no idea what it is, unfortunately my knowledge is a bit expended at this point. But we do have the 296 GTB here, which is their new V6 car. This one is a hybridised powertrain. I believe it makes around 830 horsepower. So you've got a hybridised front drive shaft with the V6 driving the rear wheels. An incredibly wide V angle on the pistons in this, making it almost a flat V6, just so that it can, which doesn't make sense, a flat V, but you know what I mean. It's a very aggressive angle on the V of the piston, so it can be mounted as low as possible in the chassis, which makes it much more dynamic on the road. And obviously this is sort of the baby variant, if you will, 830 horsepower baby variant of the SF90 Stradale, which we have an example of here. 1000 horsepower V8 hybridised powertrain. Very cool. Nice little Dino hidden at the back there, but for those of you with a keen eye and not someone who's very unfamiliar with Ferraris may notice that this isn't a standard Ferrari F12. This, of course, with some details that highlight it, like the vents here on the back, which actually allow air pressure from the wheel arch to escape. This is the race variant of the F12, which is known as the TDF. I'm not sure if these carbon bits are standard. It almost looks like it could have an Enlargo pack on it, but it's definitely an F12 TDF, which is incredibly rare. I'm not sure how many produced, I believe it's around 800 or something, but very rare car and worth a silly amount of money. Not too familiar with my 1960s Ferrari marks, but this, definitely 250-ish era. Maybe it's like a I don't know, to be honest, but it's definitely a 250-ish era cabriolet of some description. If anyone knows what model this absolute classic is, let me know in the comments below. Got to love a cheeky 430 Scuderia. Nice scud there. You can tell by the 16M badge and the lovely stripe on the bonnet. Race variant of the 430. Very nice car indeed. I've got to say I'd be hard pushed to choose between an F50 and an F40, but wow, are these two spectacular cars in absolutely incredible condition. I believe the F50 is the V12 and obviously the F40, the twin turbo V8. But some of the real hypercars from the Ferrari mark over the years, and just absolutely stunning examples. Now, one really cool fact about the F40 is obviously the entire bodywork on it is carbon fibre, and I believe it was one of the first uses of this in the public road sort of automotive industry. But where the paint was put on so thinly to keep the car as light as possible, you can tell on very immaculate original condition ones, such as this one we have in front of us, that the carbon fibre is actually visible through the wing. Now, I'm not sure how well the camera's going to pick that up. You can probably just about see the weave of the carbon on the reflection there in the wing, which is just absolutely stunning and shows the level of detail that Ferrari went into when making this absolutely stunning automobile. Let's do a walk around of the hypercar lawn, starting with the classic Ferrari LaFerrari. Now, while the other members of the Holy Trinity aren't on the lawn, there is a McLaren or two, and we'll go over to those shortly. But of course, the quintessential member of the Trinity, in my opinion, V12 hybridized powertrain, 900 horsepower, absolute weapon. Following the LaFerrari, we have a Koenigsegg Agera S. This is a beautiful exposed carbon spec with green paint actually in the epoxy when they set the ceramic. Beautiful car. This thing is a twin turbo V8 powertrain, absolutely stunning. And while they can't really put traction down Koenigsegg's, who cares, because like rolling burnouts in third, just an absolute animal of a machine. Then the old money car, which I probably have out of everything on the lawn, to be honest, the Bugatti Chiron. This is a standard spec, but that makes it 1500 horsepower, W12, quad turbocharged, obviously part of the Volkswagen Audi group. You can see the sort of Bentley-esque lines on it, but of course finished much nicer. Magnesium wheels on this one, which look absolutely stunning, and a top speed of 9 on 300. I know there's a special edition variant of this with 1600 brake with the aero kit on the back that can hit 302 miles an hour, and that's just pretty damn fast, let's be honest. Here we have an example of the Ford GT. These are the 2017 variants, I think they're Mark III off the top of my head. But obviously it's an EcoBoost V6, which upset a lot of fans. However, being a GTR owner, I appreciate how good V6s can be. And this is probably the quintessential V6. If you're going to have a V6, this is the best one to get, let's be honest. I think it's about 600 brake, incredibly light. It's got the track stance thing where it goes up and down really quick, and the silly wing that extends out the back. And probably the most noticeable aesthetic detail on the Ford GT are the flying buttresses at the back. absolutely beautiful aero ducts that go over the back there just to keep a lot of downforce on the rear of the car, and they just give it a very unique look. So you can basically see through the rear arches of the car. So heading over to the other edge of the supercar lawn, or the hypercar lawn as they've called it, there is a Porsche 959 in the middle. I'll get some shots of that. I'm sure all of you Porsche aficionados are absolutely frothing at the mouth of that. There were two here yesterday, that one and like a burgundy one, which I think was a nicer spec. I appreciate how rare they are. However, not really my cup of tea, and if I had that silly amount of money, it wouldn't be what I'd take home on the lawn. But I totally appreciate the rarity, and the fact that there were two here yesterday, just ridiculous. But here we have an XJ220, ironically named the XJ220 in the 90s, even though when tested after production, the top speed was listed as only 217 and not 220, but was still the production speed record holder for a few years, I believe, and an absolutely classic piece of automotive history from the Jaguar marque. Beautiful spec as well. Obviously I think these are twin turbo V6, looking at the rear of it, and I think originally they were meant to have a V12, and they did produce a couple with V12s in the rear. However, for the weight and power output, they decided to go with the turbocharged powertrain, and obviously had the speed record for a short period thanks to this amazing car. So we'll round things out with the McLarens on the lawn. Here is the new 765 LT. Spec on this one is a one-off MSO one, as it says on the wing, MSO 001. MSO is McLaren Special Operations. If you want some unique spec or something unique put on the vehicle, MSO are the people that will do that, actually spec your McLaren from new. So a 765 LT with an MSO option, I'm not sure what it is, but this paint is stunning. It's not quite there like volcanic orange, I think it's a more pearlized version of that, but it really pops in the sun, and is an absolutely dreamy spec. Of course, 765 LT is a twin turbo V8, 4 litre, makes like 800 horsepower on the dyno, maybe 850. It's silly. They always actually quote less numbers than they produce with McLaren. And let's just see what the reliability of this one will be like. Ooh, am I allowed to say that? Anyway, let's move over to the final McLaren, which I personally slightly prefer, even though I believe the powertrain is actually slightly weaker because it came out slightly before, but it is the same V8 but with a different tune. This is a McLaren Senna. Now, as well as the absolutely crazy aero on the Senna, the massive wing at the back, which also acts as an air brake under extreme braking, the one thing else that's notable aesthetically about it is the windows in the doors, which are used to actually assist you in seeing the apex of the track when driving around and going through corners at pace. And the notable thing about the Senna's performance, as well as its straight line acceleration, is its braking ability. There is no car on the planet that can stop as well as a McLaren Senna, though it's a public road car. And I can imagine it's just absolutely face-rippingly fast when you stomp on that brake pedal. So we have a pretty special car here, currently on loan from Ford UK. This is a one of one. It is the Mustang Dark Horse. Same 5 litre V8 powertrain you're used to from Ford, but obviously the chassis are one of one. However, what I find interesting is the 2024 Mustang GT and the Mustang EcoBoost are going to be very similar to this aesthetically, and I think it gives us a good insight as to what the car is going to look like for the final iteration of their big 5 litre V8. Really cool to see it do the demonstration yesterday. I'll try and get a shot of it doing it today. Definitely still does all the burnouts, and it's definitely that classic sort of Mustang vibe with the rear wheel drive, tail happy sort of car you'd expect it to be. And I think you can still spec them in manual, so definitely an interesting car and one I'd highly be considering if I was looking to buy a new vehicle in 2024. And I think what will be really interesting is in like 4 or 5 years time, when this shape comes down a bit in price, they've become a bit more accessible, because I think it's a real cool car for not too much money. There are some spectacular cars parked at the back here in the field. Obviously, next to the Bentley we have the 3 GTRs, which I'm so happy about. I feel right at home because obviously usually I'm parked next to the road GTRs. But there's some other spectacular stuff as well. Down here we have a couple of R8s, I believe because of the oval tips. These are both the original V10 Mark 1s, so they're very nice indeed. 458, very nice, 458 Spider, absolutely love that. Another 458 Spider there in yellow actually. I much prefer the non-Rosso Corsa cars because there's just so many Rosso Corsa Ferraris. It's just nice to see one that's not Rosso Corsa. And on this row we have some newer offerings from Ferrari. This, of course, the 296 GTB is the new V6 variant, hybridised powertrain, 830 horsepower, absolutely awesome. And next to that, the more touring variant cars, the new Ferrari Romas. Well guys, the weather is looking just like yesterday. I caught a bit of the sun today, you know.
Ooh, did you?
I did. Weather's looking just like yesterday now. As you can see, it started to rain, so everyone's taking shelter under the trees. You're meant to wait until after the final demonstration run at 3 PM, so about 3:30 to leave like we did yesterday. But it's 2:30, we've seen everything. I think we're gonna try and get out the other exit and see if they moan at us. Well, we made it home safely. They let us out the gate, no problems at all, and leaving that little bit early meant no queuing. And when you've got a car that gets as bad fuel economy as the W12 in the Bentley, that's a bonus. So just going through all the content now, going to hop on and edit this tomorrow, and it'll be the first video I've done in like 6 months, so I hope you guys enjoyed it. Loads of cool cars. The highlights for me had to be obviously the Chiron behind me. Got a lovely shot of that for Instagram. The Chiron, the Agera S, I fucking love Koenigsegg's. Ooh! And that Nismo GTR was damn special as well, but there were some absolutely awesome cars there. And I did get a chance to sit in a standard 2013 Aventador today, and I have to report that I fitted so well that I am definitely on the lookout, and Charles glaring at me from behind the camera already, but it just fitted like a glove. I was like, it's just fate, and it's obviously just going to be the most important thing in my life that I have to get an Aventador from now on, so she's looking upset. She's oh god, I've got to go, I've got to go. Ah! If I die, you know why. Bye, peace out.